The following may contain offensive language, adult humor, and or content that some viewers may find offensive. The views and opinions expressed by any one speaker does not explicitly or necessarily reflect or represent those of Mark Radulich or W2M Network. Please listen with caution, or don't listen at all. Yes, we are back. The IndySiders. Woo! Too sweet. That's right.
Hi, everyone.
The Heartbreak Kid, Mark Radulich. And Big Daddy Cool, Harry Broadhurst.
Although for some reason my graphic makes me look like Kenny Omega.
You're kind of like the bastard love child of Kenny Omega and Kevin Nash.
So all the talent, no quads. Son of a bitch.
That's about right for us. Yeah, way back in the day. How far back? Way back. Harry and I.
Couple years.
Yeah, Harry and I used to do TV parties for a couple of indie events. We used to do 2 per show. And we would talk some wrestling news, whatever, and you know, he went he went his way, I went mine. After a little while, I got social, but you know, we decided to put the band back together, as it were, and it's no longer a TV party. I finally listened to everybody else who was just like, you really need to brand certain things certain ways. So yeah, this is basically an evolution of that idea. So a couple of changes right off the bat. We're only doing 1 show. You can see the graphic in the background. Second half of the show, we will be looking at the People versus GCW, which took place at the Hammerstein Ballroom, which did not look like the Hammerstein I knew, on Sunday, January 19th. So we will review only 1 indie show per show, and then we'll spend the rest of the time doing previews, talking news, just the usual pro wrestling jibba jabba. What you think about that, Big Sexy?
I'm here for it. It's a lot easier to watch 1 show every 2 weeks than it is to watch 2.
You ain't just whistling Dixie. All right, let's get into it. I want to first topic. Saturday night's main event was last night, as we're recording this, Saturday, January 24th, and it was a pretty decent show.
25th.
Yes, the 25th. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm a day off.
All good.
Yeah, I watched it with my kids and my girlfriend. I thought it was all right. What'd you think of Saturday night's main event?
I think for what they wanted it to be, it was the perfect representation of what WWE is currently. Talented roster, top to bottom. There were 4 matches. Granted, only 3 of them actually meant anything. The 4th match was more of a showcase for the Samoan Werewolf, Jacob Fatu, and we'll talk more about him in a second because I do want to kind of just run down the matches real quick individually. But Rhea and Nia was the biggest surprise of the night for me because I've never seen Nia keep up that fast of a pace in a match, and she more than held her own against Rhea Ripley in that match. It did remind me a lot of their match from Elimination Chamber last year that Cole and McAfee talked about during the course of it, just with a much quicker pace.
I'll have to believe you. I was eating lasagna with my family at the time. Here, I'll go through the card real quick. We had, kicking things off, we had Rhea Ripley versus Nia Jax for the Women's World Championship.
Rhea retained Riptide.
We have Braun Breaker versus Sheamus, which, can I stop right here just really quickly and address this? I don't know if I love the fact that they keep referring to him as the son of Scott Steiner and the nephew of Rick Steiner. And I know, like, we all know that, but then why would he call himself Braun Breaker?
Other way around.
Like, who cares? The son of Rick Steiner and the nephew of Scott Steiner. He's fat. I
No, I'm fat. Joe's just plump.
I don't again, it's just like if we renamed him. Hang on, I got to get this out because it's been bothering me for a while now. We fucking renamed him, and they never really gave him a gimmick other than he's big and strong and kicks a lot of ass and breaks up, foam letters or chainsaws through them. And it was fine. Like I get, I understand the WWE's philosophy on we need to rename these guys. We need to own their names, own their gimmicks. It's funny when I was having a conversation about the Nick Nemeth Joe Henry match, and I referred to him as what the hell was his name in the WWE? Dolph Ziggler.
Dolph Ziggler.
And Robert goes, "Don't slave name him." And that's the thing. It's like I understand the purpose behind it, but then you can't refer to his actual lineage.
And to think Winfrey's getting paid by 411 to review SmackDown.
Some people don't love that. But we're not here to talk about Robert Winfrey.
Anyways, so the thing with Breaker is I get where you're coming from as far as acknowledging the history without actually giving him the last name.
It kind of breaks the
you have to remember at the time that Breaker started, Scott Steiner was persona non grata in the WWE.
Okay, but then just start calling him Schmagegi Steiner.
I wouldn't be surprised to see them move more towards like a Bronson Steiner. The thing is with the Braun thing is having a Braun, and a Bronson on the same roster is a little awkward as well.
I get that. It's kind of that Shorzy thing of what is it? Like we're all named Steve or whatever it is.
Or the old Dick Van Dyke show that this is my brother Daryl and my other brother Daryl.
Daryl, yeah. I don't want to spend too long on that. I've made it is what it is, but wrestling works best when we all buy into the illusion, and when you're constantly breaking the fantasy, it's hard for me to stay invested.
That's right, folks. Come for the People versus GCW. Stay for the Dick Van Dyke show references.
You said you wanted to double back on Braun Strowman versus Jacob Fatu, so it existed. We will talk about it, and then finally we had Gunther versus Jey Uso. Great match. Gunther continues to be awesome. All right, what do you want to say about this Braun Strowman Jacob Fatu match, other than the fact that Jacob Fatu is fucking awesome?
Real quick to the Gunther Uso match, and nobody bought Uso as having a snowball's chance at hell, but I thought Jay actually came out of that match looking really good.
Listen, I was talking to my kids and my girlfriend. My girlfriend, doesn't know, as far as wrestling goes, doesn't know a wrist lock from a wristwatch. And I was trying to explain to her like what the whole thing with Saturday Night's Main Event is. I was telling my kids like they would because it was 11 o'clock at night. They would kick off Saturday Night's Main Event with like Hulk Hogan versus fucking Terry Funk. You know, they shot out of the gate with the main event. It doesn't matter if he didn't, if there was any real threat to Gunther's title. The idea was to get the champion on TV, get him in there, with a good heater, and have a good match.
And not to mention, you're not going to oversaturate the Rumble card too with him trying to keep the pay-per-views at roughly 3.5 to 4 hours.
Yeah, I tell you, if one thing killed my interest in pro wrestling, it was the 6-hour fucking pay-per-views.
Which gives us the added benefit now of the 2-night WrestleManias. You can kind of cap each show at 4 hours.
Yeah, I was resistant to the 2-night thing, but I would rather 2 nights
than a 9-hour show.
Yeah, and have it be a reasonable 3.5 hours to 9 hour. It starts at roughly 1 o'clock in the morning and ends 1 o'clock in the morning the next day. Like,
So back to the Braun Strowman and Jacob Fatu thing here. First, I want to give credit to Braun Strowman for being willing to be put in that position in order to make Fatu look so strong. Second of all, I think they completely sandbagged Solo Sikoa by putting Jacob Fatu with him, because there is nothing Sikoa can do that makes him stand out around Jacob Fatu.
I don't think they knew what they had with Jacob Fatu is the problem.
I think they're finding out real quick.
And then let him pivot. I think they got past his criminal record, of which my son was obsessed with. As soon as I told him like Jacob Fatu for a while couldn't be in the WWE because he had felonies on his record, that's all my son cared about. Jacob Fatu could have Mortal Kombated fucking Braun Strowman, and my son would have ignored it because he was way into just like wanting to look up his criminal record. But I tell you, by the end of that match, yeah, man, we were all into I love Jacob Fatu, always have. From back in his MLW days. But I don't what here now that when they got past his felonies, is why the whole reason I brought that up. And they were like, all right, let's get him in here. Let's make this the best product we can by bringing all the guys people want from the other organizations. I don't think they knew exactly what they were getting with Jacob Fatu. And so they give Solo Sikoa like the new bad guy gimmick, taking over from Roman Reigns, and then they're like, oh shit, we gave it to the wrong guy. But who would have known that from the start? Because again, in a parallel universe, they bring Jacob Fatu in and he shits the bed.
They brought in Jacob as Solo's heater, and it ends up being the other way around. Solo should have been the heater for Jacob. But real quick with Jacob Fatu here too, the other thing that I would point out for him as well is the fact that I think that now that they do a lot of private transportation for these overseas shows, like they have like the corporate jet and stuff that they use for a lot of these overseas shows, getting Jacob Fatu in and out of the different places isn't as big of an issue as it used to be. Not to mention, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I believe his criminal record has been expunged. So I think he's legally allowed to travel again.
That's good. All right. So that's Saturday night's main event. I mean, when I'm home on a Saturday night and, and I get the kids and the girlfriend to watch it with me, I have no problem watching it again. I think it's a nice little addition to the schedule, so that they can get more guys on TV. And as you said, less 12-hour cards.
Similar to what WCW used to do with the Clash of the Champions as well.
Yeah.
I think maybe more so the earlier clashes rather than the later day clashes, which just basically served as an extra nitro. This particular episode of Saturday Night's Main Event stood out to me because of the fact that you had the loaded card because of the upcoming Rumble and not wanting to overstuff that. But in addition, also you're on the road to WrestleMania now. So getting that extra appetizer of what to expect going on to the road to WrestleMania, I think was a really good idea. And we talked about, you talked about the fact that on a Saturday night as well, too. Yeah, once every 3 months, 2 hours, once every 3 months isn't a major commitment. It's something easy and digestible for even the casual fans.
Totally agree. All right. Let's talk about the Rumble. The Rumble is next weekend. It's taking place, it's only one night. It's taking place in Indianapolis.
This one is.
Yes, this one is. In Indianapolis, Indiana. There are 5 matches. Looks like scheduled 4 matches rather. 2 of them are Rumbles.
Yes, 4 announced so far.
So we've got the men's Royal Rumble. Let's talk about that first. The best way to attack the Royal Rumble match is to ask who are the likely main events going into this year's WrestleMania. Who's going up against Cody? Is Gunther still going to have the title? And if so, who's he? I mean, aren't we all at this point? I mean, Brock Lesnar. Innocent Brock Lesnar, precious lamb, Brock Lesnar, God's child, Brock Lesnar, good to his mother, Brock fucking Lesnar, has been cleared of all wrongdoing in that unfortunate case from a year or so ago. So let's get him back in the mix and let's get the Gunther Brock Lesnar match we all deserve, right? Why are you shaking your head?
I don't think it's going to be Gunther Lesnar. I think they teased a different match on Raw that I think fans are going to be interested in.
Okay, since I haven't watched Raw, and I do want to ask you about how Raw's going on Netflix, but what have they teased on Raw that you think that's the direction they're going in?
Gunther and Punk.
All right.
Well, the only reason I say that is because Punk's kind of done with his thing with Seth. I mean, I'm sure they'll have another.
Those 2 crybabies got that out of their system finally.
They had the match on the debut episode of Netflix. We'll talk about it more when we get to the Raw and Netflix in general. But Punk and Rollins had the singles match there. He obviously had the blow off with McIntyre last year in that fantastic Hell in a Cell match.
Mm-hmm.
And then, realistically speaking, what else is there left for Punk to do on the WWE main roster other than have a heavyweight title main event match at WrestleMania? Winning the Rumble, which I don't think he wins it, but winning the Elimination Chamber to get the shot at Gunther at WrestleMania gives him that main event caliber match at WrestleMania that he's missing from his resume.
Fine, that takes care of Gunther, and it's one. I mean, if they're not going to do Rollins Punk at WrestleMania because they got it out of their system on the debut episode of Raw on Netflix, fine. I'm not going to fight City Hall on that one. I would rather see Gunther Lesnar, but I'll take Gunther Punk. I think it'll be, what I would consider the Angle Benoit of its time. I think it's going to be a very good match.
If Gunther drops the title between here and Rumble, or between here and Mania, then Gunther Lesnar may be back on the table.
I mean, as long as we get Gunther Lesnar, I'll be happy.
And then we could end up seeing Punk versus Rollins for the title again at Mania, since they only had the one match on the debut episode.
I mean, tell you what, we get the match. We get their first match at Raw, right?
Yes, the Netflix debut.
Right. Then Seth Rollins beats Gunther for the title. Punk wins the Elimination Chamber, and then we get the second match of those two. And then it's straight on to night 1 or night 2 of SummerSlam for the third, final match between the two and complete the trilogy. I'd like to see that.
I wouldn't be opposed to it. I think that there's more story to tell between Punk and Rollins as well, just because they work well together inside of the ring. The Netflix Raw main event was excellent, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. They clearly have a genuine dislike for each other, and they always say that you do the best business with people that there's a genuine, palpable disinterest in working with.
I get Seth Rollins' complaint about Punk of "you left." On the other hand, CM Punk's line when he debuted in AEW still rings true. How could I get well in the place that made me sick? It's not the same place now as when it was then. And listen, Triple H isn't the same guy either. And CM Punk, everywhere he turned, there was people stabbing him. And if you listen to what he said on Colt Cabana's podcast, like, I'm on Punk's side. Like, he couldn't catch a break, and everyone fucking hated him, and he was legitimately unwell, and still couldn't catch. It was like, die for us. That's what we want. That's what you're here for, Mick Foley. You're here to die for us. Now, there are other guys that will protect and make sure we keep healthy, but you're here to die for us.
And getting booked against Triple H at that Mania, despite his wishes not to do so, was the final straw for him.
I mean, there was a lot leading up to it, but again, I don't love everything about CM Punk. I've been watching a lot of documentaries on his time in AEW. There's some things on his time in AEW I'm not in love with Punk for. But I will say again,
I question how much of that is actual and how much of that is spin as well from the people that are still with the company.
I mean, a lot of what I'm frustrated with is his take on it. Like, I watched his interview with Ariel Helwani, and
I watched that as well.
And his take on some of the things that happened, I'm like, no, you're still in the wrong. So says Judge Radulich. But to move past this point, I think that line again. Like, how could I get healthy in the place that made me sick? They both have good claims to make. This is one of those 50-50 things where I think they're physically, their work together is going to be good, and I think storyline wise, they've both got legitimate claims of being right. So I'm interested in anything that these guys do for an extended period of time. So what do you do with Cody then? Because we can't do Cody Roman Reigns again. Oh, Cody John Cena.
I think this is the push for 17 for Cena, and one of my friends that I talked to about this actually had the idea that Cena takes the title from Cody and Cody turns heel the night after Mania, which I would not be against, because they seem to be kind of squeezing us towards that direction with everybody putting all of the weight of the world on Cody's shoulders. You're the guy carrying this place. This company needs you. This company wouldn't be the same without you. At what point does it stop being about everybody else and start being about the American Nightmare?
Did I tell you? So I shared with my son that Cody's neck tattoo is the reason there was COVID. Like, his neck tattoo is what started it. So my son thought that was fantastic and went on Suno.ai and wrote a country song about how Cody's neck tattoo started COVID. And I, at the next IndySiders show, will debut a music video of this song. I just haven't had time to work on it today. Welcome back, Harry.
Are you saying we're all in? Is that what I'm hearing?
We're all in, baby. I'm all the way out. Here's my question. When is John Cena done with his farewell tour?
December.
Okay, so that's conceivable then. So going all the way back to what started this entire tangent, you think John Cena wins the Rumble?
Yes. I do.
Okay. LOL, John Cena wins.
Hold on. But here's the twist, though.
Yeah.
And we talked about him earlier. The monster that Cena eliminates to win the Rumble is Jacob Fatu.
I would rather see Jacob Fatu win the Rumble, but that's just
Hold on. I think we come back to this later in the year, and I would not be surprised to see Fatu be the guy to retire Cena in December.
I would love that. So, there was a joke that we used to make on the Casual Heroes about what if you booked Rick Steiner and Goldberg together and didn't tell either one, and told both of them they were going over, just to see what it would look like. I would love to take that same idea, but do it with Jacob Fatu and Braun Breaker. That'd be awesome.
Ooh, it's a couple of bulls right there. For the record, Steiner would whoop Goldberg's ass.
Oh yeah, for sure.
For sure.
All right. Then you have the Women's Rumble. Anything of note?
I hope the rumors I'm hearing aren't true.
What's the rumor?
Tiffany versus Charlotte at Mania.
Well, my daughter will slit her wrist. She fucking hates Charlotte, and my daughter likes everything and everybody.
The rumor that I've heard is Charlotte wins the Rumble and picks Tiffany.
Moving on.
Not saying that that's what's going to happen. That's just what I'm hearing.
All right, Cody Rhodes in a ladder match with Kevin Owens. I love Kevin Owens, but he's here to put Cody Rhodes over. And then we have DIY, Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa versus the Motor City Machine Guns of Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin. 2 out of 3 falls match. Any ideas?
I don't know who's going to win that match, but I hope to hell they give it at least 20, 25 minutes.
Okay.
Because I think if you give those two teams 20 to 25 minutes, you're going to have a match that's going to be very difficult to top for match of the year come December.
All right. So tell me about Raw on Netflix in 50 words or less.
So far, so good, I think. The second episode was kind of lackluster, but the debut episode and the third episode were both really good. And I think the superfluous time nature of it, the fact that it can run 3 hours, it can run 2.5 hours, it can run 2 hours and 10 minutes if it wants to. Not having that set standards and practices time check to have to hit every single week allows for a more concise and a more thoroughly thought out show rather than having to try to stuff everything into 2 hours like they were for the last 3 months on USA Network, or having to stretch everything out to 3 hours.
When did they go to 2 hours?
September to December.
Oh wow! Okay.
Now
they're completely off USA now, right? They are exclusively distributed by Netflix.
Raw is, yes, but SmackDown is still on USA.
I meant Raw, but okay.
Yes.
Oh, really? SmackDown's on USA.
SmackDown is 3 hours every Friday night, 8 to 11.
Jesus Christ! SmackDown is like the fucking Raiders in the NFL. Pick a home. Stay there. Good God.
So what I'm hearing here is the Las Vegas whores.
Yes. All right. So you have been just yammering my ear off about the live Impact. I want to link that to TNA Genesis. Robert Winfrey was telling me about it because he had to cover it. I don't give a fuck about any of this, but I do want to. There were 2 points on here I did want to bring up. Tessa Blanchard apparently is back now. She defeated the Hobbit Jordan Grace.
And the fans had a lot to say about Tessa being back.
I want to address
Freudian.
That.
That was Freudian.
I want to address that. But Joe Hendry, we believe in Joe Hendry, defeated the former slave named Dolph Ziggler, Nick Nemeth, by pinfall for the TNA World Championship. So real quick, how was Joe Hendry versus Nick Nemeth? Because I've heard it was the bee's knees. I've heard it was the pants.
So far, I think so far so good for Hendry in terms of putting him in a position to succeed as TNA champion. I personally think Hendry is a gimmick. I'm not a huge fan of his in-ring abilities. I get the appeal from a mass market standpoint. It's the original Matt Cardona run all over again.
What is the original Matt Cardona run?
The original Zack Ryder push.
Oh, yeah. Hey, real quick, we had a comment here on YouTube, and anyone we've been having people in and out of the show, which we appreciate. Anybody in our live audience, we extra appreciate those who leave comments. And this person, we're going to get to the People versus GCW in just a few minutes, but he says Bloodsport was out of place despite being completely worked. Bloodsport matches should only be on the show bearing its name. I mostly agree with that statement. I don't think this was out of place necessarily, but I kind of like Bloodsport being on an island, being kind of like Puerto Rico or Hawaii, just being on an island unto itself.
I wonder if that's my friend Patrick Mercier.
The show was a 5 out of 10. Live Impact was an 8 out of 10. Welcome back, Tessa. All right, yeah, let's finish your statement about the main event, and let's talk about Tessa.
Well, the other tie into that too is they kind of went that route for the Live Impact, because on the Live Impact they did Joe Hendry versus Matt Cardona for the TNA Heavyweight title, and that match itself was actually pretty good too. Although it does continue the curious trend of having John Bradshaw Layfield involved in the main events on Impact, which I'm in TNA in general, which I'm not entirely sure about.
It's Pat, by the way.
Oh,
that Pat. Hi, Pat. Our good friend Pat.
All right, so back to Tessa Blanchard here, real quick. I'm going to go ahead and give
sweetie Tessa Blanchard.
I'm going to give quick thoughts here.
Yeah, please.
And then I'll let you have the floor.
Sure.
Tessa Blanchard is insanely talented.
Mm-hmm.
She is a despicable human being, however.
Is she actually wildly racist, or just does she not know when to stop talking?
Yeah. Well, clearly she doesn't know when to stop saying stuff when other people are present, because she got herself fired from multiple companies for outbursts towards people of non-Caucasian descent, including calling what's her name, La Rosa Negra, the N-word.
Hang on, I want to do an experiment here. Keep going, but I have a fun thing if I can actually make it happen.
Oh, geez. Anyways, so the problem for Tessa Blanchard is the person that's holding Tessa Blanchard back is Tessa Blanchard. She is a phenomenal in-ring talent. She is a very good promo, and she has the backing of a bunch of legends behind her, with her being Magnum TA's stepdaughter and Tully Blanchard's daughter. The problem is she cannot get out of her own way long enough to accept the success that has come her way through professional wrestling. I hope she makes the most of this opportunity, and I hope that there are bridges that have been burnt that can be mended again, because I feel like if Tessa strikes out this time, it will be the last we see of Tessa Blanchard in mainstream professional wrestling.
Well, if you don't know what Tessa Blanchard did, I just consulted with my girlfriend, ChatGPT, and here are the main issues and allegations associated with her. Are you ready for this, Harry Broadhurst? Well,
I know the main one is calling La Rosa Negra the N-word.
Hang on, let me do my thing. Bullying allegations. Multiple wrestlers have accused Blanchard of bullying behavior, including verbal abuse and attempting to undermine other female wrestlers. The aforementioned racial slur allegation. Tessa Blanchard was accused by wrestler La Rosa Negra of using a racial slur during an altercation in Japan. Other wrestlers supported this claim, though Blanchard denied the allegation.
I will tell you guys right now, she did not use the soft A, she used the hard R.
I hope she said, I never said that. Many of my friends are black.
Jesus Christ.
Failure to defend the Impact World title. As Impact World Champion, Blanchard was criticized for failing to appear at scheduled events and defend her title. This eventually led to Impact Wrestling stripping her for championship. Yeah, but wasn't that mostly because of COVID?
She was stuck in Mexico with her then fiance at the time, Daga.
Okay. See, can't blame that one for her.
They're not together anymore.
Contract issues with Impact Wrestling. Blanchard reportedly had disputes with Impact Wrestling over her contract, particularly regarding her unwillingness to send in promotional videos and return to the U.S. during the COVID-19 pandemic. Again, I'm not holding that one, her responsible. Public falling out with Impact Wrestling. Her relationship with Impact deteriorated publicly, leading to her release from the company in June 2020 while she was still champion. And
the belief is, and I've heard rumor that she kept the belt when she got fired too.
Oh, that's even better. Just running around defending it like a lunatic.
Well, like PCO showing up at, never mind, we'll get to that a little bit later.
Yeah. Alleged lack of professionalism. Reports from various wrestling promotions suggested that Blanchard displayed unprofessional behavior, including difficulties in working with others backstage. Controversial comments on women supporting women. Prior to the racial slur allegation, Blanchard tweeted about women supporting each other, which prompted other female wrestlers to share their negative experiences. God, women are such bitches. Here's Tessa.
Okay,
Blanchard.
But here's the thing.
Here's Tessa. Let her attorney speak for her. I also represent Brock Lesnar. Here's Tessa Blanchard trying to say something publicly nice and saying, as women, we should be working together. We should lift each other up. And everybody tripped over themselves to tear her down. I understand it's because she's a lying bitch hypocrite. But still, the sentiment was nice.
Okay, but therein lies the problem there. Practice what you preach. And the two main people that...
Pat Mullins got it right. If Black Rose can forgive Tessa and wish her well, we can all do the same. You're here, Pat.
The only thing I will say to that in regards to the thing about her saying women should defend other women is when the two people coming after you are two of the most respected veterans in wrestling, in Lufisto and Allison Kay, where there's smoke, there's fire.
I think it's one of those things where maybe you pull her aside and say, okay, but stop being a bitch. But you don't do what everyone else did, which is trip over themselves trying to get in front of a microphone to drag her through the mud.
Let's offend as many people as we can here. Don't be a cunt.
See, I was thinking that, but I didn't say it. All right, Pat put another thing on here. Is it any coincidence they try to tear her down when she achieved a men's world championship, which none of the other women's achieved? Pat the conspiracy theorist, everybody. Never achieved it. And never achieved anything. God, I love Pat. There's Harry trying
blocked.
All right, let's finish this list here and then move on. Strained relationship with wrestling promotions. After leaving Impact, there are reports of wrestling promotions being hesitant to work with her due to her reputation and past behavior. And finally, impact on career opportunities. The accumulation of controversy has reportedly limited Blanchard's opportunity with major wrestling promotions like WWE and AEW, where her talent's been overshadowed by her alleged conduct. Now, here's my question to you, Harry, and then we'll move on from this. Has she cleaned up her act? Because clearly she's back in TNA now, right? And obviously she was on this card. So which means they've gotten past it. They've all been able to find a way to work together professionally. Has she turned over a new leaf and figured, okay, I'm a grown-up now. I'm wearing grown-up pants. I will behave?
Well, apparently there's talks about her and Jordan getting into it backstage at Impact when she debuted. So I don't know if necessarily the professionalism is fully there yet. But this is going to be one of those situations where you have to take kind of a wait-and-see aspect to it. Can Tessa mend her previous ways, or are we going to see Tessa give in to her previous indulgences and once again shoot her career in the foot like she's done in the past?
I have a prediction.
Is it a spoiler?
No. In the year of our Lord 2026.
5.
No.
Next year?
In the year of our Lord 2026, I believe Tessa Blanchard will sign with the WWE, and she will be the most well-behaved woman on the roster.
Well, one of the things that we haven't talked about that I think we could talk about here is the NXT-TNA agreement. And don't be surprised if you see Tessa show up a little bit sooner than 2026.
One more time, because okay. Yeah, go ahead. Well, so tell me a little bit about the TNA NXT thing that's happening.
A lot of people are officially dubbing it NXT-TNA, which I love.
That is fantastic.
It's a working agreement between the two companies for like a talent share. We've seen people like Hendry, people like Jordan Grace before her contract expired with TNA showing up at the Royal Rumble and showing up on NXT television, challenging Roxanne Perez for the NXT women's title at one point. We just saw Masha Slamovich show up on an episode of NXT a couple of weeks ago as well. And then she's getting into kind of a tiff right now with NXT's Cora Jade, which is crossing over to TNA Impact too. This is an opportunity here for NXT to help a very depleted men's division, in my opinion, because the men's division in NXT is not nearly what it used to be, even though the women's division is arguably the best in pro wrestling currently. And it's an opportunity to give TNA mainstream exposure and possibly get them an opportunity to get a much bigger television deal than whatever the fuck they have with Access TV.
I want to amend my statement. I have a prediction. It's not a prediction. It's a spoiler.
I was waiting for that.
Thank you. Tessa Blanchard, and we are really moving on after this. Tessa Blanchard, God's child. Tessa Blanchard, good to her mother. Tessa Blanchard, an angel. Tessa Blanchard wins the 2025 Women's Royal Rumble. Whoever dumb bitch loses the title to Charlotte Flair, and we get Tessa Charlotte. Yes! Get out here, you rapist! Sorry. I have to do the Vince McMahon at least once a day, or I can't sleep at night. We get Tessa.
The views and opinions of Mark Radulich do not necessarily reflect those of Harry Broadhurst.
Tessa.
You know what that reminded me of?
Tessa Charlotte. WrestleMania
2026, maybe.
No, this year. That's what I guarantee you.
If it happens this year, it'll be at SummerSlam.
I'll take it.
It's the match we all need, Harry. It's the match we deserve. Arn Anderson doesn't have a daughter to whoop both their asses. We need Arn to have a girl.
or get Rude's kid in there. What happened? Didn't Piper's kid wrestle for them for a little bit?
Yeah, I remember seeing about that. She had a run in wrestling, and then who's Chris Hero married to? Oh God, I'm drawing a. She works for AEW now. Rachel Ellering.
Oh, okay. I would love to see like Tessa versus Charlotte at SummerSlam, and then Roddy Piper's kid runs out and hits them both with a coconut. All right.
And somewhere Jimmy Snuka murders another prostitute.
Only in my dreams. All right. Let's talk about the people versus GCW 2025, which took place at the Hammerstein Ballroom in New York City, live January 19th, 2025. Carrie, real quick, that didn't look like the Hammerstein. Did they like give that place a facelift or something? It looks so different.
It definitely renovated. It looked like it did during ECW's One Night Stand, in my opinion. I mean, a lot of people associate the Hammerstein with the Manhattan Center, which is where a lot of the early episodes of Monday Night Raw came from.
That might be what I'm thinking of.
The Manhattan, it's inside of the Manhattan Center, but it's a different venue altogether.
Okay. Yeah, when you and I got together when we first started doing this, we did GCW the World.
Yes, back in 2022.
The World on GCW. God, it's been 3 years. The World on GCW, and I remember, and I don't think I connected it at the time, but this is that venue.
Correct. This is their return to that venue for the first time since then.
Oh, really? They haven't been back to the Hammerstein in 3 years?
Correct. Wow.
And Pat says Hammerstein does a lot of pop-up raves now. Fantastic for all of you people looking to go dancing. Let's go dancing. All right, let's get into this. We're gonna go. I'm on CageMatch.net, and we're just gonna go in the order that this is in.
That's what I have pulled up on my phone too. So go for it.
Cool. We've got GCW Extreme title, the GCW Ultraviolent title, Unification DLC match. Matt Tremont.
Doors, ladders, and chairs for those uninformed.
Perfect. Matt Tremont defeated Maki Ito, which it took me a minute to realize who she was. I'm like, oh, that's the broad that wrestled fucking Riho on the first night of whatever that internet show was. Wrestling fan. And Brandon Kirk and Cyclope and Dr. Redacted, which has to be the best wrestling name ever. And Drew Parker and John Wayne Murdoch, one of my favorites, by the way, and Matthew Justice, and for the love of God, Rina Yamashita. It was
Yamashita.
Yeah, whatever. Arena Sushi. 15 minutes, 55 seconds. And Matt Tremont won the title. What'd you think of this match, Harry?
Maybe let me do the name pronunciations.
People come here to hear me mispronounce things.
Apparently. First of all, salutations and fair roads to Brandon Kirk, and who was wrestling his last match, at least for now. Somebody who's been a fan of Brandon Kirk going back to his run in The Office in CZW. Kirk is an underrated individual worker, as well as arguably one of the better deathmatch workers in all of the United States. So,
if this was Brandon Kirk's last match, they should have let John Wayne Murdoch eat him.
We did get to see one last Psycho Driver fuck your life.
Oh, well, that's also true.
The pump handle driver through the ladder that we saw on Drew Parker. The match itself was okay. Seemed a little rushed to me, and seemed like way too many fucking people in there.
Yeah, that's the GCW way, though. Let's get
It
106
is.
people in a match. You won't remember anything, and everybody
Well,
will be lying in a pile of blood by the time it's over.
Well, you didn't talk about it there, but look at how jam-packed the fucking pre-show was. They had the Rumble and then the 6-man scramble match. The scramble was actually pretty good.
Can I tell you, when I went to Triller to put it on, and I realized the whole thing plus the pre-show was 6 hours long, I almost canceled this show forever.
So I actually watched.
I saw that 6-hour runtime and just kind of silently said to myself, "Fuck you, Harry."
I watched the pre-show on YouTube live when it happened, and then because I was planning on watching the the People versus GCW live, but then it ended up conflicting with the Bills game. So I wasn't able to watch it live. So when I went back and I watched the pre-show on YouTube, and then I went over to Triller and I saw a 6.5 hour runtime, I'm like, what the fuck? And then I realized that they had the entire pre-show in there with the main show. They've since edited that now, and it's just the main show on the People versus GCW. The pre-show is its own thing now on Triller.
3 hours. Stop taking people hostage.
Good luck with that. It's GCW.
The only thing I have to say is, like, if you've seen kind of one GCW garbage match with 100 people, you've seen them all, and this was one of those matches. I like them. Don't get me wrong. It's one of those things where it's kind of for me like watching porn, where I'm like, all right, I'm gonna get off on this, and then I'm gonna forget about it after I go to sleep.
I mean, it's not an incorrect way of looking at it there. I mean, I'm a fan of Matt Tremont. I think Tremont's underrated. And it was a nice touch going from the guy who main evented the first GCW show to the guy who to now opening the card here. Fuck you, Pat.
All right, let's move on. All right, we got to talk about this.
Nice. I'm going to put that because we have to stay focused.
So we have to talk about this. This is probably the one thing on here that really needs some discussion. There was a number one contenders match where it was done at the beginning of the night, because at the end of the night is when they were going to have the title match. So it was Effie versus Alley Cat. And like, we'll get to her broken leg in just a moment, but can we talk about what's really important here? Alley Cat's boobs. Arrgh. What happened here?
She's definitely had work done.
She used to kind of look like a dumpy broad, and she was paired up with Effie, so who cares? Now she, like, her tits are like way up here. She actually looks pretty good. She's thick, which is fine, but like, my God, Alley Cat, woo!
The views and opinions, once again, of Mark
are consistently the same misogynistic opinions they've always been. I don't know why this is news.
I mean, you're not wrong there. No, Allie's definitely.
I'm not going to apologize for saying women are hot when women are hot. God damn it! And her boobs were hot.
Allie's definitely had work done since the last. I think she mentioned in the promo for the match that she was off of TV, off of the GCW shows for a while. I think the reason she was off the GCW shows became quite apparent upon her return.
So Pat, just kind of doing running commentary in our comment section, actually has a relevant question here, which I think does need some consideration. Does a gal the size of Alley Cat need to be performing planches on a dude smaller than her, like Effie?
I wouldn't say
smaller than her. I don't think.
I wouldn't say Effie's smaller than her, and Allie's not that big, actually.
I had a dream, Harry Broadhurst. A beautiful.
This sentence doesn't end well.
I had a beautiful, beautiful dream that CM Punk was going to be in the middle of a Raw ring, and he was going to be addressing the crowd, and he was going to say that that when you got to go to war, you don't call on just your friends, you don't call on your buddies, you call on the clique, and you hear Elton John fill up the stadium, and out sachets Effie. We need a CM Punk Effie 2-man power trip. That's what the world needs. That's what the world wants. It is the skibbity toilet of pro wrestling.
This is your obsession with Effie going all the way back to our earliest shows all over again.
It's never going to be over.
I'm very well aware. And by the way, Effie's 60 pounds heavier than Alley Cat.
Okay, but he's 6 inches taller, I think was Pat's issue.
He's like 4 inches taller than Alley. Allie's 5'10", Effie's 6'2".
So anyway, they had a match. These two have worked together a zillion times. And somewhere along the way, Allie Katch did a move. I'm sure you'll remember the details of what she did, and she done broke her leg in the process.
It was a low pay. The Austin Aries' IED dive. I mean, to be fair, Effie is
going
pretty
to
thin.
address it. You have to read it.
Effie has negative muscle mass and doesn't seem capable of catching anyone, let alone a thicker girl like Allie. Don't wish ill on her, but it reminded me of Bronson Reed's cage splash. No, Bronson Reed's problem is he did put down his foot too quickly, similar to what Edge did at the AEW
Oh,
pay-per-view.
did Bronson break his leg too recently?
Broke his ankle.
Oh, poor bastard.
That's why he's off TV.
Maybe don't be a giant fat ass jumping off things. That's not what fat asses should be doing.
I would absolutely pay to see you say that to Bronson Reed.
I absolutely will. next time we see each other.
Whatever that would be.
At the meeting of giant fat asses that we go to once a month.
Anywho, back to the Allie and Effie thing. It was Austin Aries' IED dive, the low pay through the middle and bottom rope. And it just looked like she caught her foot on the rope and then landed awkwardly. She basically psycho-setted herself.
Why you don't do that? Like, you got to go over the rope like the Undertaker, or don't do it at all.
I think the bigger problem.
Some of these guys can get away with going through the ropes, but you're taking your life in your hands every time you do it.
I think the bigger problem is there was such a small gap between ringside and where the barricade was because the ring was inexplicably that close to the goddamn guardrail in the first place. She didn't have enough time to get the space that she needed for the dive. I don't think that was on Effie or Allie. I think that was on the ring crew for setting up the guardrails and the ring so close to each other over there.
It's all I'm going to say is I'm sure she's done that move a zillion times. It's worked, a zillion times, but it only takes one to fuck yourself up, and that's what happened. I wish Allie a speedy recovery. I would like to see her boobs on TV again.
The good news is she's already back on her feet. She had surgery 2 days after the show. Steph DeLander and Manser were with her for her time in the hospital, and she's already been cleared she's been released from the hospital. She was told 6 weeks until she can bear weight without crutches again, but she was already walking up flights of steps 3 days after having surgery. So I don't think we'll see Allie catch down for too long off of this.
But yeah, Effie ended up winning the match, and he's in the main event with Mance Warner.
The rumor that I heard, this is unsubstantiated, but the rumor that I had heard is that it was supposed to be...
Is the two-man power trip between Effie and CM Punk in the WWE?
For this match, was that it was supposed to go to a double pinfall, and the main event was supposed to be a three-way.
And once again, it's a three-way nobody wanted.
I mean, we've seen enough of Mance versus Effie over the course of 2024. You might not have, because I don't know how much GCW you're actually watching, but people who watch GCW on a regular basis have seen enough of Mance versus Effie in 2024 to not have wanted it in 2025.
The New York OGs of Amazing Red, 100-year-old Amazing Red.
Not so young anymore.
From the retirement home, the Terry Funk of our age, Amazing Red.
Sadly, I think Red's still younger than me.
Grim Reaper, which is another awesome name, and Homicide, who looks like he's just going crazier and crazier as the days go on, defeated the Real Effin' Pros of Griffin McCoy, Kerry Morton, and Tony Deppen. Somebody signed Tony Deppen to the WWE. He is fan-fucking-tastic. The bit where they started to leave, and Tony Deppen's like, yeah, I don't care. And just started to fucking walk away. I'm like, you're my hero.
Tony Deppen's been a favorite of mine for years. He does not get anywhere.
In our initial run of this, you and I talked vividly, excitedly, elongatedly about Tony Deppen.
I don't dislike Kerry Morton. I think he's a little too old school heel, if that makes sense. He lays it on a little bit too thick.
That's Ricky Morton's kid, right?
Yes, which kind of explains why he leans in that direction.
Yeah, that kid's going to end up in NXT.
The third member of the Real Effin' Pros, Griffin McCoy, is arguably, in my opinion, the most overrated talent in GCW. I do not see it at all with Griffin McCoy. He is piggybacking off of the injury that happened to Jordo right now. That's the only reason he's getting anywhere currently.
This was a fun match. Every once in a while, GCW will put a fucking match on their cards where there's actual wrestling going on, and this might have been like garbage matches aside and controversies aside. This might have been the best match on the show.
I felt bad for them, though, because they got kind of handicapped by the injury happening to Alley Catch right before, because that crowd was fucking dead.
Anything else about this besides what I've said?
No, and good for Amazing Red going into the Indie Hall of Fame as well. Well deserved. Red's a legend.
Okay.
Sorry, Peacock decided to turn on in the background.
The GCW Tag Team title match of the Garbage.
It's a great fucking name.
Garbage Daddies of Alec Price and Cole Roderick defeat Violence is Forever. I want a t-shirt that says Violence is Forever.
I'm sure they have one.
Of Dominic Garini and Kevin Koo. This was also a pretty good match. Not as good as the one before, but still, this was, like I said, GCW, known for the garbage matches, but occasionally they'll put on a match that looks like wrestling. This was one of them.
And I think Alec Price is somebody who's going to have a WWE deal by the end of this year.
Mm-hmm.
Because Alec Price is young, he's super athletic, he cuts a very strong promo, and he's gifted inside of the ring. He's the exact kind of guy that they would look for NXT, and I think he would fit in very well down there. Cole Roderick is a little bit too undersized to go to NXT, unfortunately, I think, which sucks because Cole is incredibly talented and gifted at multiple different facets of pro wrestling. In addition to doing the garbage matches that you talk about, the death match style of pro wrestling, obviously Ratty Daddy works very well in the tag team setting, and he's also the brass ring holder, which we can talk about a little bit later on.
So Pat says he likes the daddies. This match was actually good because it was well worked and not overly spotty trash wrestling or flippy. Correct.
And I want to give a lot of credit to VIF as well, because in my opinion, Violence is Forever is the best tag team on the independent wrestling circuit today.
All right. Next match, we have a steel cage match between Charles Mason and Richard Holiday, where Charles Mason defeated Richard Holiday with Paro. Yay! I got my Paro sighting. What the fuck with this match, by the way? Could you, in 50 words or less? And I really need in 50 words or less. I don't need the Martin Scorsese time dilation version of this. Just give me the Cliff Notes, Daddy. What the fuck with this match and the storyline with Paro and his husband? Okay,
so as quickly as I can here.
Yeah.
Mason and Holiday used to be partners.
Uh-huh.
Mason's
like partners or tag team partners.
Not Paro partners, no.
Oh, okay. You have to look in this match. You have to just differentiate between the two.
Okay, so no, they used to be tag team partners. Mason's a psychopath and has been since his inception into GCW, even going back to before GCW in Jersey Championship Wrestling, the GCW undercards.
Okay.
Holiday turned on Mason and snitched him out to the police for murdering people. It's wrestling, suspension of disbelief.
Okay, but then he should be in prison.
He escaped prison in order to make it to the Hammerstein for this match. There was a whole vignette right before the match about it. Did you not watch the vignette?
I saw the vignette, and I'm like, this is dumb. What am I watching?
Him escaping prison in order to make it to Hammerstein to get revenge on the snitch.
There were no police there to come get him. They should have at least...
He killed them both.
Okay, continue.
Okay, you know what this is? Do you remember Lucha Underground?
Yes.
This is GCW meets Lucha Underground. Just go with it.
All right, I'm going with it, Daddy.
So... Paro works as an enforcer for Holiday.
Okay.
Mason apparently has Undertaker-esque abilities to turn out the lights, because when Paro went to hit his finisher on Mason, the lights came out, and when they came back on, Paro ended up hitting his finisher on Paro's husband, Odinson.
Yeah, who I had the gayest crush on.
I seem to remember Last Daddy Standing from a show we did a couple of years. How were we not canceled?
Because it's the year of our Lord 2025. Yeah. What is it? What is his name? Odin? What's something wrong?
Odinson, I believe.
Odinson. Yeah. Oh boy, the dreams I've had of him and Paro. Please continue.
I had that same dream about Alley Catch. Call it what it is. Anywho,
Can you imagine just go with it for a moment. Speaking of going with it, could you imagine a faction of CM Punk, Effie, Paro, and Odinson in the WWE? Oh my God, it would be like the Four Horsemen or the Four Horsecockmen.
check please.
And that is absolutely correct. Odinson rules. The Asgardian Lariat is terrific. That is amazing. All right, finish up the story.
So this was the proof that apparently being a snitch is worse than being a murderer in GCW. Which honestly, if you look at GCW's track record, that probably tracks.
Absolutely tracks.
Nobody likes a snitch.
Nobody. All right, so that's what got us into this, and that's why Paro was involved.
Yes.
Okay.
And then
shouldn't Odinson have been there?
Well, Odinson wasn't, but Mason's original backup in Slade was, and I know how much you love Slade.
Mm-hmm.
Slade took out Pero in order to set up Mason for the finish with the victory over Holiday. Yeah. Holiday, you may remember from MLW. Actually, he was part of MJF's faction in MLW.
I vaguely maybe remember it. All right, let's move on. Next we have Sidney Akim defeated El Hijo del Vikingo in 10 minutes and 33 seconds. I couldn't remember this match if my kid's life depended on it.
Well, Sidney Akim is the former Reggie.
That still means nothing to me.
The dude who worked as Carmella's wine consignment.
Oh, that guy. Ugh, okay.
And then he was part of the 24/7 division with all the flippy shit because he used to work for Cirque du Soleil.
Okay.
El Hijo del Vikingo had a brief run with AEW a while back, but he didn't want to sign a full-time contract, so he didn't get signed there. I like Reggie. I think Reggie's had an excellent, or Sidney Akim as he goes by now. I like Akim's run in GCW so far. I don't think he's a top-level talent. I'm sorry. I just don't. Mm-hmm. I don't see it. But I do think that performances like this are going to elevate him from a guy who just got signed because he can do flippy shit.
That's fair. All right.
Vikingo to me remains a guy who just does flippy shit with no real rhyme or reason.
Flippy bullshit. I agree with that. Flippy bullshit sucks. That's right.
Speaking of flippy bullshit.
Yes.
Let's talk about the 6-man tag that followed.
Yes.
Or at least one team on that 6-man tag match.
Los Desperados of Arez, Gringo Loco, and Jack Cartwheel. Oh, God. Jack Cartwheel's fantastic. Versus 800-year-old little Guido, 800-year-old super crazy, and Tajiri, who doesn't age.
Except for the silver hair.
Well, yeah, he kind of looks like Eric Bischoff, but Japanese.
And I thought I was going to get the line of this match in by saying super crazy looks like he ate super crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so funny because, like, I looked at Tajiri and I was like, he hasn't aged. Dude, Asians don't age. Holy cow. He still looks as the same age he was back when he was in the WWE, except for the silver hair.
Well, you've heard the phrase black don't crack?
Yes, I have.
Asian ain't changing.
No, they ain't. Holy cow. Fucking Tajiri, man, still looks the same.
Meanwhile, super crazy looks like he's hit up one too many Taco Bells over the last couple of years because good God has he put on a lot of weight. Guido still looks the same, though.
I mean,
just
he
not
looks
in the
older.
face.
I was going to say he looks older, but yeah, his body shape is still more or less the same.
Not in the face, obviously, for Guido, because clearly James Maritato is now a 50-something-year-old man. But Guido athletically still looked like the same little Guido that we used to watch 25 years ago in ECW in that same building.
What do you think of the match?
Match itself was okay. I'm a little surprised they put Los Desperados over in the match, but I do think it was the right decision to give Gringo the win in this match, though.
Yeah, of course it was the right decision. Why would you put over 800-year-old little Guido?
Because GCW loves to live on that ECW nostalgia kick a lot of times. And let's not forget what happened at the World on GCW, where most of the outside talent went over.
Yes, and I believe I screamed about it back then. Screamed, I tell you.
Lauderdale claims that they were handcuffed by outside powers for that particular show. And if the booking of this show is any indication, he might not have been entirely wrong about that. I will say something that will tickle you about this match. Jack Cartwheel is on a WWE ID deal.
Oh, that's great. That's awesome. All right, this one I actually do remember and was paying attention to. Josh Barnett defeated the former Baron Corbin, or as my son called him, the douche, Tom Pestock. This wasn't bad. I just don't understand, like, if you're going to bring in Baron Corbin, why don't you put him over? Josh Barnett doesn't need a win here, but he got one. And, you know, I love the Bloodsport matches, but I like, you know, the MMA style work shoots. I know that's not really your thing.
It's very UWFI, if you remember that from back in like the late 80s, early 90s.
Uh-huh.
So there's a market for that. I am not part of that market, but I understand that there is a group of fans that are interested in that. I do think that having Corbin, or the former Baron Corbin, come into work, basically a worked mixed martial arts match, probably not the best showcase of his talents. And the crowd at the Hammerstein was not happy about the fact that Barnett went over in this match.
Yeah, Pat's weighing in here with a comment from earlier. Just really out of place on this show. It was like Brawl for All on Raw. Yeah, I don't mind the fact that it was there, but preferably I think Bloodsport should be on its own island.
And it will become the Collective in April.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like Effie's Big Gay Brunch in the sense that a lot of the stuff they do, especially the older, I don't know if they're still doing this sort of thing on Effie's Big Gay Brunch. They seem to be more focused on just bringing out a lot of like gay and trans talent on Effie's Big Gay Brunch and less hit you with the dildo stuff. But that first Big Gay Brunch was like really overtly sexualized. Like the stuff they did with Marco Stunt and the dildo and all this other stuff, and it was like super overtly sexual. And if they had done that here, it would have been wildly out of place.
Do you remember the House of Truth Ring of Honor shows?
No.
They're on Honor Club if you have access to it there. It's kind of what it reminded me of, is the fact that the House of Truth, the Truth Martini, ran ROH shows that were kind of ran as secondary shows, but under the ROH banner in a way, because Martini was working for ROH at the time. It came off very similar to that for me.
Yeah. It kind of reminded me a little bit of like when Raw, the very brief period where they were doing Raw Underground.
Yes.
Where it was just like, this doesn't really jive with the tenor of the show. All right, moving on. Megan Bain defeated Atticus Cougar. Oh, it's nice to see Atticus Cougar at a GCW show.
I'm glad to see Atticus back in GCW, and I think we're going to see less and less of Megan, so I would have put Atticus over here, just because Megan just showed up on Dynamite for the women's Casino Gauntlet Eliminator thing a couple of weeks ago.
You know how I feel about a average woman versus the size, an average size woman versus the size of an average size man, and the woman goes over for no good reason.
Yeah, but this wasn't one of those cases because Megan's significantly taller and probably about the same weight as Atticus.
Okay. How much of that match I remember.
Megan Bain is like China sized, just, cute.
Oh, okay. That's fair. Singles match. Joey Janela defeated Masato Tanaka. Why? Why is Tanaka putting over Joey Janela?
ECW Tribute Company.
Okay.
And why is Tanaka putting over Janela? Because of what happened in the post match. And the announcement that Sabu's retirement match will be against Janela at Spring Break 9.
Okay, didn't you have like a rant about Sabu?
Yeah, fuck Sabu.
Okay, that's not a rant. That's just fuck Sabu. Explain.
Absolute fucking douchebag of a human being.
Yeah,
does not give
a specific incident that you would like to
Yes,
refer to?
I do.
Okay.
There was an autograph signing, and one of my friends is a huge ECW fan. He has an actual, authentic, old replica ECW title that he gets signed and stuff. And like everybody that we've went and gotten this title to sign this title for him could not have been cooler. Shane Douglas was fucking incredible. Mikey Whipwreck was amazing. Bill Alfonso was literally one of the nicest people I have ever met. Sabu basically said 3 words the entire time we were there. And then one of the gifts that was given to him, he gave to the toy store where the signing was at. Fuck Terry Brunk.
Okay, moving on. Matt Cardona. This was fun. I enjoy Matt Cardona. I think he's hilarious. So Matt Cardona with his broski Jimmy Lloyd. He's a special kind of boy.
I believe you're fucking with a different boy.
That is correct, sir. He defeated Tommy Invincible, Then he defeated Micro Man, which I laughed at. And then Jimmy
The,
Lloyd it stabbed him in the back. He did, and he defeated Matt Cardona.
the Microman match got a good chuckle out of me. I don't know who Tommy Invincible is. I hope I never see him again. I was not impressed at all.
Obviously, they did this to get to the Jimmy.
Yeah,
Lloyd
of
thing.
course.
I would assume we're gonna get a real Jimmy Lloyd Matt Cardona match in the near future.
I would argue that we'll probably get that at Spring Break 9.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised to see that be
a weirdo. Why isn't Jimmy Lloyd a weirdo anymore? Like his whole thing was that he was a weirdo. He was a different kind of boy.
Because he was working he was contractually obligated to work with Matt Cardona.
Okay.
He lost a match to Cardona where if he lost, he had to become Cardona's broski.
Okay, but that made him not weirdo anymore?
He adapted himself to appropriate Cardona's culture.
Oh, okay. Does this mean Jimmy Lloyd's going back to being weird?
I would believe so, because they just did a series of shows this weekend overseas in Europe. I think one's in France and one was in England, and he was back to being the different boy Jimmy Lloyd on those shows.
Cool. I like different boy Jimmy Lloyd. What was the name of his show? He had a show named after him in GCW.
Oh, Degeneration F.
That's right. All right. And then lastly, we've got the GCW World Title match of one of my favorites, besides John Wayne Murdoch. My other favorite was Mance Warner, who's in
TNA now.
Good for him.
He debuted at the Live Impact.
Who's easily my favorite independent wrestler ever. I'm telling you, the world needs Effie and CM Punk together in WWE. Effie defeated Mance Warner. So where is this going? Now, Effie, by the way, great match. I enjoyed Effie versus Mance Warner. The guys work together. I think Effie's a fucking star. And if he can moderate his independent behavior to a more WWE friendly style, I actually think Effie would be huge.
My girlfriend just walked by saying hi.
My girlfriend.
So I will say the same thing about Effie that I said about Tessa Blanchard earlier.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest problem that Effie has is Effie.
Okay.
Taylor needs to get out of Effie's way, if that makes sense.
Okay. So Pat's weighing in here. Mance versus Effie was awful. They seemed like they had no chemistry, and I'd assume they'd never work together. Come to find out, they worked each other for a year prior.
Well, so the argument that I'm going to make to that, Pat, and I don't disagree. I think the main event was a little lackluster, in my opinion. I don't think it was originally planned as a singles match, and that's why it came off awkward.
But I think to what Pat's saying, if they've worked one-on-one before, they shouldn't have had this much difficulty this time around.
Consider the stage, consider the event, consider the spotlight on the company, and nerves are bound to play a factor in situations like this. So
I didn't think it was that bad. I mean, maybe Pat's looking at it with a more critical eye than I did. I think I had it on as I was doing 5 other things at the time, but I liked it just fine. But then again, I'm not being overly critical either.
In fairness, you're only kind of a casual GCW person in general. Somebody like myself and somebody like Pat who watches GCW on a more consistent basis, you definitely notice things that go from show to show there. And while they did have the run against each other last year, as I said, I do believe the fact that this got changed from a believed triple threat into a singles match affected the chemistry and the timing of the contest itself.
So Pat's saying, so GCW is never welcome back at Hammerstein based on how bad this show was. Not as bad as the world, but still awful. Is that true? They're not back.
No.
They're not welcome back at Hammerstein?
No. Brett Lauderdale has come out and said that that's not true.
Okay, fair enough. So overall, this was a more or less, look, you either like GCW or you don't, but this was as GCW show as any.
So I think that the problem with having the show at the Hammerstein is you don't get the blood and guts aspects that GCW is kind of known for as well.
Sure.
Because of the New York State Athletic Commission.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that makes it more palpable towards the audience that they're trying to reach with some of the names that they have on the show too, the ECW legends and people like El Hijo del Vikingo, bringing in Sidney Akeem, the former Reggie.
It kind of seemed to me like an ECW pay-per-view, once they
GCW in general, GCW kind of has that feel about it most of the time. And anyway, and Lauderdale has said that that's not an accident because they want that ECW aura, that ECW feel, that ECW atmosphere, that anything could happen on any given show, regardless of wherever they happen to be in the country.
All right. So that is our review of GCW versus the World. So Harry and I have put together a bit of a schedule. So I'll tell
Real
you
quick.
Yep, go ahead.
Let's do some quick final thoughts here. You ready?
Sure.
Favorite match or moment from the show?
Anything involving Effie.
Shocker. I'm going to go with the tag team title match. I thought it was fantastic. I thought both teams came out of it looking very good, and I thought that the work that all four men put in as well spoke highly to the quality of their in-ring athletic ability. Least favorite match or moment?
Allie Catch breaking her leg.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things. Unfortunately, you can't plan for injuries, and that one right there completely killed the flow of the show at that time because at that point there, they had just come off of the ladder match, which is probably the most dangerous match that they had booked on the show. Nope. You feel free. I'm not touching that one.
I would love to touch them.
I'm sure you would. And I'm pretty sure you're the wrong gender for that. Anyways.
Anywho, yeah. I guess my final thought is I like the show just fine. I'll continue to watch GCW shows on occasion.
Scale of 1 to 10.
6.
And I'm all right about there. I'm about a 6.5. I don't think it was not nearly as bad as the World on GCW, which I think we both gave like a 3 to.
Mm-hmm.
But not fully what GCW I think is capable given the right circumstances.
We will be back. Now, we're not just doing necessarily independent shows. On the occasion that there's something to talk about that's more of a mainstream, then we'll talk about it. So the next show that we're doing, we'll be reviewing NXT Vengeance Day. That'll be February 21st. And then we're back to doing something independent on April 4th. We're doing the St. Louis Anarchy Gateway to Anarchy 2025 show. And then April 23rd, we will be doing, we will throw the format in the trash, and we will be doing the entire review of the Collective, the Las Vegas recap. We're going to do it a little bit differently than we did the last Collective show. I'm only going to talk about the ones I watch, and Carrie can talk about the ones he watched, and the ones we didn't watch, we're not going to deal with.
So, based on what I've seen for the Collective, obviously both of us are going to watch Spring Break. Both of us are going to watch Clusterfuck Forever. So those two shows will probably get the vast majority of the time throughout the course of the show.
I'm going to watch Bloodsport, and no, what's going to get the most time is Effie's Big Gay Brunch. Who the fuck are you talking to?
I can't even promise I'm going to watch Big Gay Brunch.
I'm going to talk about it for at least an hour.
I am not Narcissus there.
I'm without pants on. So, yes.
I'm not surprised.
So, yeah, I will be, at the very least, watching Effie's Big Gay Brunch, Bloodsport, and
I will make one request.
Yes.
I will make one request. Try to give Progress a look.
We'll see. I'm a busy
see what you think of the new era of Progress Wrestling, because
I will try.
Original Progress Wrestling is stuff of legends, and there's talk going around that they're working to reestablish Progress's name in the European independent scene, and part of that is having the show as part of the Collective.
I will absolutely try. I make no promises. All right,
fair enough.
So that's what I got going on. Hey, are you still podcasting with the other group?
Not currently. We're working on a return to podcast, but unfortunately nothing is set in stone currently. I will say that since we last got together for one of the men who joined us for the TV Party Tonight movie review of Game of 21, Jonathan Nielsen has since passed away. So rest in peace, Jonathan. You are missed. Myself, Eric, and Brian send our condolences to Nielsen's family and other friends as well. And you are missed, and it's not the same without you over at the Nada Network.
With that said, thank you, Harry. Here's what's going on this week. Tomorrow, we've got No Bananas. Also, we've got a triple feature of Oscar nominees. We've got Conclave, A Complete Unknown, and The Brutalist. Robert promises he will actually go see The Brutalist, so I'm very excited to talk about it with him. Tuesday, Wednesday, Alexis Haina will be hosting, and I will be on the panel for season 1 discussion of The Bear. So that'll be fun. And then Black History Month is upon us, and we will be kicking things off. It'll be myself, Jason Teasley, the Protocol Son, and Shay Tate. We will be looking at black musicals, and we are kicking things off with The Wiz, Dreamgirls, and Purple Rain. Purple Rain.
We are gathered here today to get through this thing called life.
That is correct, sir. Last week, we had a session, Jesse and I, where we created a song called Pelennor Fields, 2 L's. Pelennor Fields Forever. We reviewed Wolfman. Aroo! Alexis Hana had 2 dorks. One of those dorks was David Wright on the Talk Star Wars Skeleton Crew. And then on Thursday, Cutie Patootie, Mick Wanamaker led a discussion on a Gwar career retrospective. That was a lot of fun.
Are you doing anything for Rumble?
I mean, we'll talk about it on the next IndySiders show, but I'm not. I mean, as far as what?
I didn't know if there was still a pay-per-view review show on the Radulich and Broadcasting.
It'll be talked about when me and you get together again.
Fair enough.
So that's it. That's what's going on here. Harry, I think this was a very successful outing for the IndySiders. What do you think?
It's good to be back. I missed this.
It is good to be back and front. All right. For Pat Mullen, who...
enough of what you want to do with Effie.
I mean, Effie, Paro, Odinson, Alley Cat, the whole get-along gang. And we are going to get along. Anyway.
Guys, gals, and non-binary pals. Shout out Nick Manawa.
Perfect. All right. Speaking of non-binary pal, I want to thank Pat Mullen for joining us on the show in the comments. Always a good supporter of the network here. For Big Sexy Harry Broadhurst, I'm the Heartbreak Kid, Mark Radulich. Be well, be safe, and behave.